Hi, my name is Ben Bronson, and this is my presentation on Black Friday consumer spending. In this video, I'll walk through how I use SPSS to conduct descriptive, diagnostic, and predictive analytics using data from XYZ's private limited retail sales during their Black Friday event. Before moving into the data, I laid out a few key hypotheses. First, do men and women spend differently on Black Friday? Second, does age influence spending patterns? And third, do people in different cities spend in different ways? These questions guided the descriptive analytics, and later I'll expand this into product level behavior by demographic. So essentially, I'm not just asking who spends more, but also how demographics connect to what and how much people buy. This next slide kind of talks about why the research matters. Understanding how gender, age, and city influence spending helps businesses plan better. If you know who's spending and where, you can offer the right deals, stock the right products, and run better marketing. For example, if a certain age group consistently spends more, retailers could prioritize promotions toward that segment. Ultimately, it's all about improving decision-making with the data. In this slide, I explored average spending across gender, age, and city. Starting with gender, I observed that males spent significantly more than females, with an average difference of about $745. With age, there's a clear pattern. Spending increases with age. The group aged 51 to 55 had the highest average spending, suggesting that the older consumers are more willing or able to spend during Black Friday. Lastly, when comparing the cities, C showed the highest spending levels overall. This indicates that location plays a role in consumer behavior and might influence marketing strategies. Do men and women spend differently on Black Friday? The chart shows that men do spend more on average than women. The table below gives you the count of purchases too. Men made over 129,000 purchases, while women made just under 38,000. In my opinion, that's a pretty big difference. So not only are men spending more on average, but they're also shopping more overall. Does age play a role in how much people spend? The bar chart on the left shows total purchase amounts by age group. The 26 to 35 age group clearly stands out with the highest overall spending, followed by the 36 to 45 group, and then the 18 to 25. As age increases beyond 45, total spending declines steadily. This suggests that younger and middle-aged shoppers are the most active during Black Friday. Shifting to city type, do people in different city types spend differently? The box and whisker plot on the right answers that. City B recorded the highest total purchase amount, followed by C and then A. This could reflect differences in income levels, store access, or population density across city types. Together, these insights highlight how both age and location significantly influence Black Friday shopping behavior. Now I shift into section 2, which is the diagnostic analytics section. Here, the focus moves from what happened to why it happened. I'll explore which of the differences we saw in the descriptive section are actually significant, using statistical tests like t-test and ANOVA. Also, on a quick side note, I had to recode the variables sex, age, and city, so when the data results came out, they were more efficient. Here's a brief summary of the main insights. Men spent slightly more than women, with male average at $11,824 and female average at $11,804. The differences are small at first glance, but we'll test significance next. Age also matters. People aged 51 to 55 spent the most per person on average, and geographically, City C had the highest average spending at $12,207, while City B had the most volume of transactions. So each demographic group brings something different to the table. Does gender influence spending? Here's the t-test that confirms our earlier observation. The gender difference in spending is statistically significant. With a p-value less than 0.05, I can say with confidence that men and women really do spend differently on Black Friday in this data set. The difference is about $740 on average. This is useful because it means gender-targeted strategies may be valid for future sales events. Does city type influence spending? This slide dives into how the type of city someone lives in affects how much they spend. Using Tukey's HSD test, we found statistically significant differences in average spending across all three city types A, B, and C. City C came out on top with the highest average purchase amount at about $122.08, followed by City B at around $114.88, and City A at $111.99. These results are consistent with the box plot on the right, which shows higher overall purchase values for City C. This suggests that people living in more urbanized or developed city types may tend to spend more on Black Friday. This slide dives deeper into how different age groups influence Black Friday spending. Starting with the descriptive statistics, we see that each age group has its own average spending behavior. For example, ages 51 to 55 had the highest mean purchase amount at around $120.35, while the youngest, 0 to 17, had the lowest average at a $111.72. The ANOVA test below confirms that age is a statistically significant factor in spending behavior, with the p-value being less than 0.001. This means the differences we see in average spending across age groups are not due to chance. The F statistic, that's the number 22.47, reinforces the strength of the result because of how big it is. Looking at the graph, the box plot shows some variation in spending, but the trend clearly highlights that middle-aged shoppers, especially those between 51 and 55, are consistently spending more than other groups. Overall, this analysis confirms that age plays a meaningful role in consumer behavior during Black Friday. In this slide, I explore whether product preferences during Black Friday vary by demographics, specifically gender and age. Using a chi-square test, I found a highly significant result with p-values less than 0.001, meaning the differences I observed are not due to chance. The top half of the slide shows results where age groups were compared, while the bottom test compares product categories by gender. In both cases, the Pearson chi-square values are very high, 2,523.742 and 1,717.151. This confirms that demographic factors are closely tied to product choices. The bar chart to the right visualizes the product preferences. You can see that product category 1 was by far the most purchased, but that there's still noticeable variation across other categories. Ultimately, this analysis shows that men and women, as well as shoppers of different age groups, have distinct purchasing patterns during Black Friday. In this slide, a look at the predictive regression model used to understand how gender, age, and city type influence spending. All variables in this model were statistically significant with p-values less than 0.001. From the coefficients table, we can interpret that males spent about $745.89 more than females. Each increase in age group, say moving from 18 to 25 to 26 to 35, was associated with an additional $63.38 in spending. And as for city type, each level increase, maybe from rural to suburban to urban, showed an average increase of $508.19 in spending. Although the model only explains about 1% of the variation in spending, indicated by that R squared of 0.01, the relationships are still meaningful. Future recommendations for XYZ Private Limited. Based off the findings, XYZ Private Limited should target male shoppers in higher spending bundles. The age group of 51 to 55 resulted in the highest average expenditures, while the middle age group spent the most in terms of volume. This could be useful in selecting which age group to target with each product. City C is where spending is the highest. For the future, there should be more promotion in that region.